Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Surrey schools are overcrowded with more than 82,000 students this year. And now parents are being asked to consider some creative solutions, like more online classes, busing some students out of catchment, and even shifting some school days to end in the evening. Will those ideas work for students and their families? That's up first. And the holiday shopping season is getting started. What's your game plan for avoiding overspending? What have been your favorite affordable finds? We'll have a TikTok thrifting advocate joining us after 12:30. I'm Michelle Eliot. Welcome to BC Today. Thanks for joining us on CBC Radio 1 and live streaming on CBC Gem, cbc.ca/BC, and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. Well, Surrey schools are facing an increasing surge of students as the city's population continues to grow. And that's forced the school district there to come up with a list of fairly drastic ideas for parents to consider. And among them are fully online or hybrid classes for secondary students, moving to a trimester system, or even extending school days or dividing them into shifts, with some students starting in the early morning and others finishing at 8 p.m. Surrey Schools spokesperson Ratinder Matthew joined our colleagues on the coast yesterday, and she was asked how serious the situation is in Surrey schools that forced them to consider these ideas.
So we've been averaging around 800 new students every school year for the
Wow.
past 10 years. But these past 2 years, we've seen an increase of 200% in new student enrollment. So we're seeing around 2,400 per school year in 2022 and 2023. And so, this is very rapid growth, and it's just not sustainable for us.
That is Surrey Schools spokesperson Ratinder Matthew speaking to CBC yesterday. Now, none of these ideas have become formal policy at the school district level, but a letter was sent to parents to survey what they felt about those ideas, and some parents are still trying to digest the news. Rebecca Yoshizawa is a mother of two in Surrey.
I was shocked to get this email because I think capacity issues are nothing new. I'm in my 40s, and I think like a lot of people in my situation, we have even maybe some fond memories of capacity issues in the sense of, the familiar kind of portable
Yeah.
experience. Right. So that's nothing new, but to see some of the solutions, or I guess what they're calling mitigation strategies that are described in the email as well as in the survey, was pretty surprising to me and pretty new to me.
Now, whether you are in Surrey or anywhere in the province, we would like to hear from you on this. What do you think of some of these ideas being put forward in this survey that was sent to parents in Surrey? What about that idea of early morning school days, or days that start at 2 in the afternoon and then end at 8 p.m.? Imagine that. What would that mean for kids? What would that mean for your family? And our current school schedule, does that need a rethink? Is that working for parents and their families, for kids and their families? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, pound 690 on your cell phone. You can email us to bctoday@cbc.ca. And how do you think Surrey should deal with its overcrowding problem? Joining me now to take your calls is Sylvia Fuller, a professor of sociology at the University of BC. Hi, Sylvia. Good afternoon.
Hi there.
Can you tell us, first of all, what your thoughts are, your initial visceral reaction to some of these options being put forward?
Well, I think my initial reaction, and both a sociologist who studies the work-family interface and as a parent of a 13-year-old, was like, okay, how is that actually going to work? Parents already have challenges with a mismatch between the sort of school day and when it starts and when it ends and when employment takes place. And it can be challenging to manage after school care for elementary school kids. It can be challenging for, before school, if you have to be, commuting a long distance to work and get there before school starts. And what do you do with the kids? So, I mean, it's not like the existing system is great for parents necessarily. We already have a mismatch there, right? Because it was set up at a time when the expectation was that, mothers were home to take care of kids, and they were there there in the morning and they were there when the kids came home from school. And of course, for most families, that's not the case. 3/4 of families in BC of school age kids have both parents who are employed. But some of these suggestions seem to make that issue potentially even worse, right? So when you're talking about, oh, let's start the school day at 2 p.m., well, what are you going to do with the kids, right? And what I fear is that these decisions seem to be being made without consideration of what other infrastructure would need to be in place, care infrastructure to enable this. You can't just, when you just shift the school system without having the care infrastructure, you massively disrupt parents' employment potentially. We saw that with the pandemic, right? When the schools closed down in those initial months, mothers' employment in particular took a real hit because somebody has to be there to take care of the kids. So just implementing changes to the school day without having care infrastructure in place is really a recipe for disaster.
Yes, I'm listening to you and thinking about those mornings, right? Hustling everybody to get ready, getting lunches ready, getting them out the door, and then having about 2 seconds to take a breath before heading into work. So questions about the current school day, whether that's working for parents who are employed as well. Lots to talk about there and dig into. But your idea of what impact will this have on other aspects of the student's life, of family life? This is just being considered right now. The Surrey School District emphasizing these are just in the consideration phase, but asking you, how would this work for parents? How would this work for students and their families? A split shift, a split day, starting either early in the morning or in the afternoon and ending at night? And what about things like busing to other school catchments, hybrid online? What was your experience during the pandemic with online schooling? I'd love to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And some people, given BC's history with perhaps trying out some of these things in the education system, you may remember some things in your own life as well, your own childhood. Love to hear what you thought of that. Bruce, in fact, is calling us from Penticton with some memories. Hi, Bruce.
Hi. I'm in my 60s, and I was the youngest of 4 kids, and we grew up in northern BC, and we did shift school. I went to school from 7 o'clock, if I remember right, from 7 o'clock till 1.
Okay.
And then my older brother and sister, they went from noon until 6 o'clock at night.
Okay.
And, it was just what we had to do because we just didn't have enough space in the schools for all the kids.
Right.
And
okay.
We made it work. The older kids helped out at home. The younger kids just
You dealt with it.
Mothers stayed home more back then, okay?
Yeah.
And because things were a little different back then, we were rich or anything. We lived paycheck to paycheck lifestyles. But, my mom was able to leave the house at noon to go and do work if she wanted to or if she had to, versus, finding daycare. When my brothers and sisters came home from school, it worked perfect.
Yeah. Bruce, was this in
There's
elementary
lots of
school
reasons.
or secondary school? Do you remember?
I was elementary.
Elementary. Okay.
My oldest sister and brother were high school, and the junior high kids went differently in there. So the junior high kids were able to be home more. We had 2 schools we had 3 schools in Fort St. John then, and
more people, more students than,
and a heck of a lot more students because it was booming, and all the young families moved up there.
Yeah. So as you alluded to, society has changed. Do you think this is still doable?
I think it is.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's reasons to find why it won't work rather than finding reasons for it to work. We have, schools are empty for 18 hours a day, 16 hours a day. Maybe we should make use of it. And, even if it's high school kids doing shift work and shift schooling. don't know.
Great to hear from you, Bruce. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
really good. Bruce in Penticton. Jacqueline is up next in Vancouver. What are your thoughts on shifting school days? How could that impact families, Jacqueline?
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I think it's a great idea because I have two boys. They're older. One's 14 at Lord Byng, and the other is 19, but graduated from Kitsilano Secondary.
Okay.
And both of them have a really tough time waking up in the morning.
Yes.
And it's so, and I know there's data that supports that teens wake up at night and then are sleepier in the morning. So I have all kinds of wonderful ideas about how this could be envisioned. But
how do
fundamentally, sorry.
No, go ahead. Fundamentally?
I just think like they could be doing their academics in the morning.
Yeah.
Or, afternoon after they've actually eaten properly and rested. And then it would be so great to have mandatory phys ed or some kind of activity through the school system for all grades, because my understanding is now, I believe it's at grade 10, you stop having phys ed.
Right.
And I think that's a real detriment because there's not every family can afford all the different classes and all the different teams and sports.
And would you, I guess, how would that fit into that later day?
I would hope that we could have the schools open longer.
Oh, I see. So it's using those hours, as Bruce was saying, those hours when schools are empty. And Jacqueline, for your own life, I know what it would mean for your teens, but for your own life, how would that work okay?
Well, I'm highly privileged. I get to be an at-home mom, and but I also have a partner, my husband, and he is super interested in everything that the kids do. So we are really kind of interested in doing what needs to be done. But I also recognize that is a high point of privilege that we're able to. Jacqueline,
really good to hear from you. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Let's go back to Sylvia Fuller on that. The idea, I was waiting for that, right? The teens, I have a teen boy who likes to sleep in.
So do I.
Need more sleep. So could that might be a byproduct, perhaps?
I hate to pour cold water on this, but from what I saw, from what the school board was proposing, is that in order to make this work, remember, they're trying to create more space in the schools.
Yes.
So it's not just like, let's have everybody start an hour later, which I think probably every kid in high school would be very happy with that. Certainly my son would be thrilled, right, to have a later start. And I do think there's lots of research suggesting that, teenagers need more sleep, right? And there's less of an issue with, childcare for teenagers. The problem, as I saw it, though, was that the suggestion was, yes, so some of these kids are going to be switched to later in the day, like quite a lot later start, but the other half of the kids would then be switched to an even earlier start.
Yes, 7:30, I think
like
is
7:30 or
yes.
something. So I can't imagine a whole lot of teenagers really benefiting from or being happy with a 7 a.m. start to the school day.
Okay.
So, I mean, not to throw cold water on it, but I think that we have to remember that's the other side of it. But I actually want to go back to what the earlier caller, Bruce, was mentioning and about how things work. And I think, I'm really glad to hear that this was a good experience and it worked for him as he was growing up. But I do think we have to recognize that it really is a very fundamentally different context that is facing families today. And, the experience that Bruce had growing up and that Jacqueline has in her family now, that is an outlier. That does not represent the majority of families here. So most, 75% of families who have kids who are school age, 6 to 12 years old, they have both parents who are working. And among those, most of those folks, they're both working full time. So, having the sort of flexibility of, a staggered start time or split shift, you really have to think about who is going to be taking care of the kids. And that right now, if you were to just switch to that situation, no one's available to take care of those kids.
We're going to talk about
a minority of the situation.
Staffing in a moment too. And I'd love to ask you that as we wrap up, because you talked about how the infrastructure is not built for these kinds of changes. Here's Surrey, though, with this problem, right, of so many students, they're bursting at the seams, and they're trying to provide education. So if they were to implement some changes to deal with that and adapt, what did we learn from the pandemic about adapting so that it does work, so that these changes do work?
I think that's a really great question. And I think that, some of the things that we learned from the pandemic are the ways that, some aspects of online or hybrid education, if done right and planned for, can actually be, useful. And so if we can think about ways that we can, supplement or add that into the regular educational system as options, that could be something that is actually valuable pedagogically, gives kids maybe a little bit more, flexibility, and certain kinds of learning activities could actually be better suited to that. Some of the things that I teach online now at the university setting, some of those activities, they work better online, frankly, than they did, in the context of in-person classes. So I think that if you have the time and the space to really plan things, opening up to more flexibility, particularly at the secondary level, I would say, is something that we could learn from. But we also learned from the pandemic that if you just have a situation, and, there were good reasons to do this in the pandemic. I don't want to say, we shouldn't have, closed down those schools. I mean, that was important, what happened. But there was a price that was paid, and the price was, a reduction in mothers' employment in those times when the school was not available and when the childcare centers were not available. So if you just take away the infrastructure and you don't think about that broader picture, what happens is it tends to, fall on the shoulders disproportionately of mothers because of, our sort of gendered understandings of who tends to be more responsible for the care of children. And that has negative implications for gender equity, for employment, and so forth. Now, fortunately, those changes seem to have been temporary. But, if you're going to make this kind of structural change in the school system, you really have to think about not just what the implications are for the schools, but also more broadly for society.
Really good to speak with you today. Thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having me.
Sylvia Fuller is a professor of sociology at UBC, and we're asking you about Surrey School District's proposed solutions to its overcrowding problem, considering things like trimester schooling, busing students to out-of-catchment schools, more online schooling, and yes, those staggered shifts, splitting students between early morning classes and afternoon shifts that end in the evening. And what do you think of these suggestions? Will they work for kids and their families? Our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Graham is calling us from Victoria. Hi, Graham.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What do you think of these ideas?
Interesting discussion that's lopsided right now. There's all this discussion about students and parents. And sure, we can get them into all these different levels, time frames, and different catchments. Who's going to teach them? Teachers are now fully booked, working full days, with insufficient substitutes, insufficient teachers. Are you going to extend their days? That's untenable. So there's this thing about, we've got all these more students. Where do we get the more teachers?
Okay. Graham, thank you very much. A very important question that you pose, and we're going to get some comments now, in fact, from a member of the Surrey Teachers Association. Thanks for the call. That's Graham joining us from Victoria. And for more on this, we have reached Lizanne Foster, who's the first vice president of the Surrey Teachers Association. Good afternoon, Lizanne.
Good afternoon, Michelle. It is Michelle today, isn't it?
It is Michelle today. Yes,
Last time right. I said hello, thank you, Michelle, to Amy. So I want to check.
In fact, Amy will be in this chair tomorrow. But thank you for checking on that. And so, jumping off of Graham's point, how are teachers feeling and reacting to these proposed solutions right now?
So the initial reactions from our members was one of deep concern because, of course, all these changes dramatically and drastically impact our working conditions. You know, if you're expecting teachers to work in split shifts, if you're expecting teachers to kind of be flexible with the kinds of changes, that is a completely different teaching situation than it was in the past. We're also in a bargaining here. So our contract will our contract expires in 2025, but we will be preparing for bargaining all of 2024. So it's really interesting the timing of this survey because next year is going to be pre-election year, but also it's going to be our pre-contract year when we're going to be talking about learning conditions, working conditions all the time. So really interesting.
Well, aren't overcrowding problems already affecting Surrey teachers' working conditions?
Absolutely, yes.
And so
absolutely.
Could this mitigate those problems?
Well, you know, the school, the public school system is kind of like a root ball that's got lots of threads going into it. It's tied to all different kinds of things. And if you shift one thing, you have to shift another thing. So other things shift and change, right? The real big question that the survey is asking is, what is school for? What is school for? So yesterday, Gloria interviewed a sociologist from Kwantlen, and she was speaking as a mom and as a sociologist.
Right.
She was talking about the way that, you know, schools function as a community for socializing. You know, kids get to practice and be out in the world first in the school community. It's that other community outside of the home. There's home and then there's school. And of course, before school, there's work. So it performs an extremely important function. And if you have one school community coming to the school at different shifts of the day, that disrupts that. You know, it disrupts the kind of the whole idea of what school is.
So what do you propose for now? And by the way, have Surrey teachers been consulted as well? Or will you receive, or have you been asked about these proposed solutions?
This is a political question. Let me see how I answer this one. So about a week ago, I guess 10 days ago, we went in, we were told we were going to just get the heads up on a long range facilities update consultation. So we were told that this was happening. And we were made aware of all these mitigation strategies, that there would be, the survey was meant to test and see what the appetite was for all these solutions. The president was given an email the night before it was sent out that just said the survey is going out tomorrow. So we saw the survey the same time that everybody else did. So the very next morning, Monday morning, it was out to 100,000 parents, and then the staff also got the email. So we didn't get the email before it went out, which is concerning.
Okay, so no specific consultation directly with these specifics with teachers, is that right? Or you got it at the same time as parents?
We were told about the possibilities of some of those, but very broad strokes.
Will you have input? Will you be able to make comment?
We don't know, because we've been told that the information will be gathered and then the information will be made available to us. But nothing can change without our collective agreement would have to be changed. There would have to be major changes to our collective agreement for any of these to be implemented. And as I said, we're going to be going into bargaining and considering bargaining pretty soon. So right now, it's basically a conceptual discussion. They can't actually implement that given our, what's in the collective agreement right now.
Okay. Well, we will look to see, where these concepts go. At this stage. Lizanne, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Michelle.
Lizanne Foster is the first vice president of the Surrey Teachers Association. It's 12:30 now, and the countdown days is on. Friday, December the 1st is our annual CBC British Columbia Food Bank Day fundraiser. Now, the total number of visits to BC's food banks has increased 57% since 2019. And in rural communities, that increase has been 100%. Now, in the same time period, cash donations have fallen. In a few minutes, I'll share information with you about how you can make a secure donation online. But first, here's the story of a food bank client.
My name is Irina Yurchenko, and we came the last year from Ukraine. This program is very helpful for our Ukrainian society. Since we are new to the country and we are having hard times, we have to pay rent and we do not get high wages at our job. For the time being, it's a great support, and we are very thankful to Canadian society for providing us with this huge assistance, with the support. And they give us this feeling that our future should be great here. It gives us a hope that in future we could help our future neighbors, future new immigrants, newcomers to the country. When we get stronger here and get more money, we will continue that tradition. When I was in Ukraine, I was responsible for sales in international companies, and German and Japanese companies. Coming here, I had some difficulties because I do not have Canadian experience, which is a must here. And I found a job as interpreter because many Russian-speaking Ukrainians, they need support. I work as an interpreter on the line, helping 911, helping social workers, helping banks, etc., with interpretation. Thank you so much. We feel your support, we feel your help, we feel that you take care of us, and we're so grateful for being treated this way. We would like to continue keeping this nice tradition when we get stronger in this country.
Thanks to Irina for sharing her story. And Friday, December the 1st, is our 37th annual CBC British Columbia Food Bank Day fundraiser. You don't have to wait until then to make a donation to the food bank of your choice in BC. You will find a secure online donation site at cbc.ca/foodbankday. There's a drop-down menu that allows you to direct your donation to the food bank of your choice. And again, that's cbc.ca/foodbankday. And we will have a province-wide special programming planned all day for you. I'll be joined by Margaret Gallagher, host of North by Northwest, for a special 3-hour edition of BC Today. We'll have live music, lots of special guests. I do hope you can tune in and make a donation if you're able. It's 12:33, 1:33 in the Mountain Time Zone. This is BC Today here on CBC. And right now it is time for a CBC News Update. Here's Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. The union representing nearly 2,000 BC firefighters, including frontline wildfire crews, says the provincial firefighting system is in crisis and a key part of the problem is low wages. Members of the BC General Employees Union met with MLAs at the legislature this week to call for what the union says are transformational investments needed to ensure the demands of the coming wildfire season. The union says just 267 of the almost 2,000 wildfire service positions are year-round full-time jobs. The TransLink Mayor's Council has approved the first phase of an expanded regional transit plan. Priorities include the building of 3 new rapid bus routes at a cost of about $300 million each. TransLink says the current system is dealing with overcrowding and needs expansion to sustain growth. And the $2.15 billion draft budget for the City of Vancouver next year could see property owners hit with another significant tax increase. The proposed hike is more than 7.5%. Council will consider the draft budget at its meeting December 5th. And now the forecast on the North Coast. Cloudy this afternoon with a high of 7, highs to 2 degrees with sunshine in the Peace. In the central interior, sunny with a high of 0, highs to 4 with a mix of sun and cloud in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, sunny with a high of 3. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, lots of sunshine this afternoon with highs around 8. I'll have more local news at the top of the hour. Now back to Michelle with BC Today.
Sunny and cold. Sunny and
Yes,
cold.
it's lovely though, right?
It really
beautiful.
is. And I know Whistler Blackcomb is open today. So
That's
people
correct.
may be
Exciting.
having some fun. Yeah, some people are excited. We're actually going to take you there right now. Rob, thank you so much.
You bet.
That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And yes, Whistler Blackcomb open today. Some people are excited, some people concerned about the costs. Well, CBC's Leanne Young spent the morning there, and here's some of what she saw.
We're here at the base of Whistler Mountain here in Skiers Plaza, where things have been buzzing since well before 8:30 a.m. when those gates opened. Huge round of cheers, and those first skiers and snowboarders were allowed to head onto the gondola for the very first runs of the Whistler Blackcomb 2023 season. Just around the corner from me, I see people dancing because that's just how much excitement there is. So the big talk, of course, is how much snow there's going to be. Not all runs are open here at Whistler Blackcomb, which is, not exactly unusual for the start of the season. Last season they did get a lot of snow, not as much this year. What they're hoping for is, of course, more snow to build as the winter season progresses. This is an El Nino year, but still means it's pretty unpredictable. You can take that either way. Could be more snow, could be less. The other thing that lots of people have been talking about, the affordability crisis that are facing not just people in here, Whistler, and of course, right across the country. The lack of housing has repercussions not only for the people that live here, for the workers, but also for employers. People saying that it's very difficult to try and staff so many, of course, the service jobs, the thousands of service jobs that make this community run. So what they're asking for this season is for patience as you come down here and take your stab at Whistler Blackcomb. Leanne Young, CBC News, Whistler.
That is Leanne Young, who spent the morning at Whistler. Not a bad way to spend your morning, but as you could hear, sounds like it's pretty festive over there. And for our radio listeners, you can imagine the lineups. She said, have some patience. There were already quite a few people up there lining up with their in their ski suits. So there you go, just taking you to the opening of Whistler Blackcomb today. Well, yes, the sights and sounds of the holiday season, the winter season are upon us. And one more sign is the shopping season getting underway tomorrow with Black Friday, of course. You perhaps have seen all the ads and the flyers already, the busy malls. But of course, inflation has hit Canadians on so many fronts. You may be wanting to pinch those pennies while still sharing gifts, and you may be concerned about sustainable shopping. We're going to be joined by someone who knows how to find a good deal and stay sustainable through thrift shopping. And we are asking you, what is your own game plan for holiday shopping and avoiding overspending this year? Do you have any favorite thrift shop finds that were affordable and made for good gifts? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can email us too. It's bctoday@cbc.ca. And joining me now is Sinclair Strand, who is an avid thrift shopper who posts on TikTok about all things thrifting. Her handle is @HomeBodyVintage, and Sinclair has been good enough to join me here in studio. Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Have you started your holiday shopping?
Honestly, this year I started a little bit late, which I am upset about with myself now.
But you've already started.
I have already started.
And this is late for you.
This is late for me. Well, when you're thrift shopping, you have to give yourself time to find the right things, right? You're not going to find everything perfect the first time you go. It does take a little bit of time, so you need to be mindful of that. But we still have a lot of time. We still have a lot of time.
We sure do. I think some people would argue that for sure. But I like how you said on your TikTok, Christmas is literally around the corner.
Yes. And I swear, it's the same time every year, but it seems like it creeps up earlier and earlier. And especially if your family gets bigger every year, you just have more people to add to that list. So it's definitely one of those things that I start thinking about it as soon as Remembrance Day has passed. I am all Christmas all the way.
Okay, so that's your calendar. That's the way your own calendar works.
Absolutely.
And you have been posting about thrift shopping and sustainability. Tell us why this is important to you.
Well, growing up, my mom was a thrift shopper and she loved it. And it was something that I just knew was normal as a child. And growing up, I wanted to find cool stuff and I didn't want to be the same as everyone else I went to school with. So you slowly start finding things and it just becomes a normal, like, constant in your life. So that is, I would say, the reason I still kind of do it. And I got addicted to the feeling of finding things that just gave me so much joy. So the more you shop, the more you have an eye for things that kind of just stick out to you. Because if you've never been into a thrift shop before, they can be overwhelming. I know a lot of people are even turned off by the smell of things, or they just don't know where to start because there's so much stuff. So I would say go in with kind of a game plan. If you know that you're looking for sweaters, only look at sweaters. So that's kind of one of those things that I kind of keep in my back pocket. But the more you go, your eye just gets trained to look for things that, like certain materials or certain items, and focusing on something and keeping your brain, I guess, focused on it when it does get hand delivered to you.
Getting distracted.
Yes, absolutely. When you have things in your brain and they show up in front of you at the thrift store, it's like the most addictive feeling.
Yeah, it's like it's the fun of the hunt.
Absolutely.
The thrill of the hunt. And now I know also that the sustainable part of it is very important to you.
Absolutely. And I think that is the biggest problem that we're seeing, is that especially influencers and seeing it on TikTok and all sorts of social medias, is that people are pushing us to buy things all year long. And the amount of waste that comes along with overconsumption it's horrifying. And to take a little bit of time to look into how much textile waste is like just thrown out every single year, it's definitely something that I think everyone needs to be aware of. So when you look for things that have already been created, the quality of things that were made 10, 15 years ago is just different than what you see nowadays. And there's nothing wrong with something just because it was used lightly, kept in good condition. There should be no problem with giving that to somebody else.
Okay, well, we'll talk more about that too. I like how you've already been giving us some tips to keep in mind as we enter those thrift stores. And we're asking you too, have you been thrifting? Is that something you're considering for this holiday season? It has been a really rough year, for finances for a lot of households around BC, across the country. So is that affecting your approach to holiday shopping? Are you looking to cut your costs and avoid overspending? How are you doing that? Love to hear from you. Are you considering buying things secondhand? How do you feel about that? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 as well. And if in past years you have had some of those finds, those treasures that you have found sifting through for that diamond in the dust, you can let us know and tell us about it and share that with us too. We'd love to hear from you. Again, it's 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can email too, bctoday@cbc.ca. And Sinclair Strand is with me at Homebody Vintage on TikTok. And so you have brought some items with you. And so those look very, very cute. Why don't you perhaps show them to us, and for our radio audience as well, describe them to us?
Absolutely. So the first item that I brought in, these are Harley Davidson leather cowboy boots. They are in beautiful condition. They look almost unworn, or they've been resold. So somebody really loved these and took really good care of them.
Yeah, I mean, they look worn, but that's kind of the look that a lot of people go for.
Well, absolutely, right? And you're seeing things that look exactly like what you would see 10, 15, 20 years ago have now just come back into style, because trends are always coming and going.
That's right.
So the things that we're looking for, they already exist.
Okay, so tell me about, that moment when you found, were you looking for cowboy boots? What was that like for you?
Actually, I went with my partner and he found them, and he was not sure if they were his size or what, but I looked at them and I said, you know what, the price is right and I'm going to try them on and see if they work. And they just ended up being like the perfect thing for me to put into my gift drawer, and for the right person with the right size feet.
There you go. And they have that classic Harley Davidson
logo.
logo
Yes, they have the Harley Davidson logo. Other than that, they're perfect, just regular black leather. and they were actually made in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you see
That
very
traveled
often.
far away.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you have a very happy partner there. All
Yes,
right.
I sure do. Next, I also brought in 2 vintage glasses. They are the Celestial Libby glasses that were very popular in the 90s. This has become very popular because Monica from Friends has one of the mugs.
Does she?
Yes, she does.
How do I not know this?
You would know if you saw the episode, you'd recognize them
I
for
would
sure.
recognize it. It reminds me of the starburst that's on the door.
Absolutely.
Of the Friends episode. If people can remember Friends, they had that blue door, purple
Yeah,
door.
with the frame
with
around
the
the
frame
people.
that's kind of a yellow starburst. What she has here are 2 kind of goblets that are bright blue, that sort of royal blue, kind of like what I'm wearing actually, blue, and then the yellow sun and stars just bursting and really, really striking. So tell me about finding those.
Those ones, I had been wandering around for about an hour, and I always like to do my rounds and just check high and low before I leave. And so I was looking, and they were on the very bottom shelf tucked in the back. So I don't know if maybe somebody who was working there liked them and tucked them, hoping nobody would find them. But when I found them, nothing else mattered for that day because I was on cloud 9. So I was very happy to bring these home. And this is a perfect thing that you can add with a nice bottle of somebody's favorite wine or some treats, and just to make it feel a little bit more complete as a gift.
Okay.
And then lastly, one thing that I have been looking for every time I go is I love to find vintage bed sheets. And I'm a bit of an upcycler, which is taking something that you found and then turning it into something new. So something I started this year was taking old bed sheets or anything that I could find that was cute and nostalgic for people, and then creating them into little tote bags.
Oh my goodness.
So every item that I used to make this was 100% thrifted, upcycled, and
so it's a tote bag with Charlie Brown characters.
Yes, and the bed
Peanuts
sheets
characters.
themselves were from 1978.
Wonderful.
So they're old. I don't know where they would have gone had I not saved them. I don't know if somebody would have put them on their bed. I'm not sure. They are polyester. I'm not a polyester sheets kind of person, so I figured they'd be perfect for upcycling.
Yes.
But it's one of those things that when people see bed sheets that they would have had as a child that they haven't seen since the 70s, that makes them feel so nostalgic, and it gives that warm and cozy kind of feeling. And that just goes to show that there's so many things that are there that you can change or alter or make into something different and give it a new life and keep it out of the landfill.
And it's something that's meaningful to you.
Absolutely.
That is wonderful.
Absolutely.
What a lovely tote bag. And you can see all the Peanuts characters on there, and it says happiness is being one of the gang. See, that's going to take a lot of people back. Right?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And I like how you've shown us too how you can make these into gifts and make it so that it is special. You didn't just buy something and wrapped it up and given it. You've put some thought.
And I think that's what throws people off. It's not just taking something that is quote unquote used and then giving it to someone. It's finding something that you know is going to be sentimental or special to that person, and then finding ways to make it feel like a complete gift. And that could be adding something to it or putting, loved food items or something that people can enjoy or time spent.
I have a lot of friends who make things, bake cookies and things like that. We have a lot of calls on the line asking you how you're approaching your holiday shopping. How are you cutting your costs as you shop for gifts? And are you a thrifter? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Bill is up first, joining us in Vancouver. Hi, Bill.
Hello there.
Yes. What are your tips?
Well, after Christmas, usually about February, I start keeping my eyes open.
Wow.
So
for gifts.
At this point in time, I've finished all my Christmas shopping, and so it's a breeze. But I mean, we do the same sort of thing. I mean, my partner and her family and my family, mostly girls, they're always trading clothes around.
Right.
You know, so that if they can't use it, then it goes to the thrift store.
Right.
Well, of course, when we go into the thrift store, well, we're kind of looking as well. So, for instance, we use Marketplace as well. I just picked up a nice pair of leather chaps for my partner.
Online.
Ride on my motorcycle. And we had to get some slight alterations done on it.
Sure.
But saved huge. I just bought a lamb fur or skin coat that's
probably 20 years old, and the thing is in perfect condition.
Wow, wonderful, because it was good quality. Yeah, Bill, your whole family gets in on it, huh?
Yes.
That's fantastic, Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What a great find, too. Mary is joining us next in Surrey. And are you a thrifter, Mary?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, and also, yeah. So I want to let you know that that I went to a Christmas craft store and I picked up some like ornaments, like wooden ornaments that has a circle in, like of different characters, like a Santa or whatever. And I thought I'll give this to my grandnieces, and then I'll get the pictures inserted in there. And like it was like $1 a piece. You know what I mean? It's so cheap, right? And I've gone to thrift shops all my life, and I just bought myself a handbag.
Wonderful.
I bought myself my dining room table.
Yeah.
I bought chairs. I bought all.
Did it require a lot of
everything.
searching, Mary? Does it require a lot of searching to get through those great finds?
Yeah, and I also bought another craft at, I think it was Value Village, which was a like an embroidery, like 2 embroideries, which people start projects and they don't finish them. But I'm very handy at doing all kinds of needlework, right? So I picked it up and I thought, wow, you just finish it off, frame it, and give it as a gift, and it's a beautiful gift because oftentimes the beauty about these shops, these secondhand stores, is that the quality is so beautiful. You know what I mean? When you're picking up older things, you know, today if you go in stores, you're getting a lot of times cheap quality, and if you could afford better quality, you're paying a lot of money.
Yes.
So that's why I always go to thrift stores.
And Mary, I heard you found a present that you got for your family for $2?
Yes. I bought a rug hooking kit that's owl, that has an owl motif on it.
Okay.
And it was like 70% done. So now I just got to do like a little bit of rug hooking. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll make this rug hook into something a little more practical. I'll buy a pillow. I'll go buy a pillow. And then I'll make a slip cover and attach that to the slip cover so that the pillow can be inserted. And if it gets dirty, you know, you can always take the slip cover and wash it without the pillow, right? So because I'm handy at sewing, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give that to my stepmother, who's 84 years old.
Wonderful.
I know she loves owls, so I thought, wow, for $2, you know, to give such a beautiful gift to somebody, right?
That's amazing. Mary, thank you very much. It sure comes in handy that you're good with the sewing kit.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet. Thank you very much for that. A happy mother-in-law for you there. Anne is next in Chase to tell us about holiday shopping and finding ways to cut costs. Hi, Anne.
Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for calling.
Well, I phoned because you were asking about, you know, special things that you'd found at thrift stores.
Yes.
And it wasn't exactly the thrift store, but in Chase, the Chase Museum has a Christmas store every year for a few weeks.
Wow.
Basically, it's recycling things. And I've been needing some hiking boots for a while. And then I went in the first time because stuff comes in every day. And I bought a few small things that I could know that people could use in the family. And the second time, there were these hiking boots, perfect size, just right. So that was my recent find. But I have been going to thrift stores for about 50 years since my good friend Teresa introduced me to them.
What do you love about them?
Well, it's the recycling issue, really. That's what I like, because I find it hard to go into a huge mall and see rows and rows of all this stuff that came from somewhere else.
Sinclair is nodding as she's listening to you, yeah.
Yeah, I actually find it kind of depressing to do that. Maybe some people like it, but I don't. And I was going to mention that if people need motivation to do more recycling and going to thrift stores, if you Google the story of stuff, it just goes through the whole process and why we, you know, it's not sustainable. We need 5 Earths if we're going to keep buying new stuff.
And are you doing something this year that's different?
Well, our family, we tend to not buy a lot of stuff anyway, but we're doing the Secret Santa thing, so that's, you know, 1 gift per person. But we're also focusing on either homemade or a service coupon or, you know, a massage or something or something handmade or something edible. And if it is bought, then locally made. So at some of the local craft sales.
Wonderful. And thank you very much. Great to hear from you in Chase. Yes, last year we did our family gift exchange, and I got a lovely knit toque from one of our guests. So it's something that I remember, and I know that this person, put a lot of love into to make. Maya Wright says, I absolutely will be thrifting this year, like years prior. Living in Vancouver, we are fortunate to have amazing consignment shops. They have high standards for accepted items at affordable prices, lots of great options for clothes for yourself and gifts for others. Thank you very much for that, Maya. It was great to hear people, as you said, adding to their finds to then gift these items.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's what separates a gift from just being something that you bought and wrapped and sent off to someone else is the thoughtfulness that goes behind it. And that's really when we dial it back to the holidays, that's really what it's all about. It's not about buying or money spent, right?
That's such a great sentiment. And you really are done?
I'm not done.
You're not done. Okay.
I'm not done. I've started.
You've just started.
But so I'm trying to make more time to go and make sure that I can find what I can. And if I can't find everything secondhand, I made a choice this year that anything that is being purchased will be secondhand, sustainable, either consumable like edible, or if I do need to buy new, I want to support our local businesses, because if we are buying new, it would be nice to support people who need it and their small businesses. So it's something that I think everyone should keep in mind.
Wow. What's the reaction to your TikTok posts around that?
Actually, a lot of the ones that I posted last year have gained some more traction this year, which I think is fantastic. So obviously the message is being well received by people. So I think that's fantastic. And I think it's just removing that stigma that things that are secondhand aren't gross. They're not dirty. They can be things that are very thoughtful and have a lot of value still.
I think that's part of the discussion, isn't it? Is
Absolutely.
How do you get over that feeling that,
Totally.
oh, this is secondhand?
Especially, not everything needs to come from a thrift store. Like one of the ladies who wrote in mentioned that there's consignment stores, there's vintage shops, there's used record shops. There are so many different places that you can buy sustainable gifts that don't need to be just a secondhand thrift store. There's so many different places we can support.
And I want to tell our radio listeners as well, we're showing on our live stream some mugs, a slideshow of mugs that you posted on your TikTok, Christmas-themed mugs, a teddy bear with a red scarf, a nutcracker, a Christmas tree with adorned with bows. Lovely to see. That puts me right in the mood, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm a mug collector myself,
Yeah.
and I have found some fantastic mugs on Marketplace too. Great to speak with you again, Sinclair. And happy hunting.
Thank you again for having me.
Nice to see you. Sinclair Strand, an avid thrift shopper who posts about all things thrifting on her TikTok at Homebody Vintage. That is it for our show today. Thanks so much to everyone who called in and joined our discussions. You can always email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. You can watch the show again on YouTube at CBC Vancouver and listen again on the CBC Listen app. I'm Michelle Eliot. I will be off tomorrow, and Amy Bell will be in this chair for you. Thank you so much for joining us, and Brian Minter will be her guest tomorrow too. So get your gardening questions ready. Have a great afternoon.